Going to round off with the Doctor Who diary over to the cozy corner with Mr. Simon Horton in his spangly shirt. It's quite a jazzed up diary this time. But yeah, let's go and see which treats he's got within the pages on this edition of the Doctor Who diary.
Yeah, well, here we go then. Yes, in years gone by, if we've still actually got time for this, it's 10 o'clock already. Where does time go?
I have no idea where the time goes. Every time I think that
there's a discussion.
Well, okay. Well, going back, actually, it's an odd one this week because there are lots of episodes where we said goodbye to people. We've talked about saying goodbye to John Pertwee in Planet of the Spiders. We just said goodbye to Charlotte, Queen Charlotte. And there's a few episodes in this week, years gone by, where we said goodbye to people. 53 years ago this week, we were saying goodbye to Patrick Troughton. It was the very end of the War Games, and Patrick Troughton was leaving as the Doctor. Caroline John, 52 years ago, we said goodbye to Caroline John at the very end of Inferno.
Oh, what a woman.
This very day in 1973, 49 years ago, we said goodbye, of course, to Katie Manning because it was the Green Death episode 6. So we said goodbye to Katie Manning. The one we're going to talk about is 57 years ago, was episode 6 of The Chase, also known as The Planet of Decision, when we said goodbye to Ian and Barbara. Oh, and didn't we all love Ian and Barbara? Played, of course, by William Russell and Jacqueline Hill. Because 57 years ago, 1965, we were watching The Chase, episode 6. This, of course, was the third Dalek serial, and it should have been the third film. We were robbed, folks. We were robbed of that third film because it would have been The Chase. And can you imagine Peter Cushing trouncing through The Chase?
Absolutely, I can.
In another life, on a sliding doors moment, we would have got that. This was directed by Richard Martin. His third Dalek serial, actually, because he directed on the first Dalek serial, then on Dalek Invasion of Earth, and he came back for The Chase.
A steady pair of hands, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, this was the very last time he worked on Doctor Who at all, Richard Martin, which was sad to see him go. Peter Purvis, of course, as we can see there, stepped in. So while we said goodbye to Ian and Barbara, we said hello to Peter Purvis, playing Stephen Taylor. But of course, what's interesting about Peter Purvis is that he'd also played another character, Morton Dill, 3 weeks before in episode 3. A completely different character.
Did viewers have shorter memories back then, Simon, or was it because the screens were smaller? You couldn't. If somebody got a hat on, you didn't know it was the same bloke.
Who knows? It's very obviously the same bloke, but of course it was 3. It would have been 3 weeks later. People would have forgotten almost certainly. He started off a little bit of a trend here, did Peter Purvis, by appearing as a part earlier and then coming back as a regular character, because the same thing happened to Ian Marter when he appeared as a guest artist and then came through as
always forget that he'd been in it before.
Yeah, absolutely. 20 years before he then appeared as Harry Sullivan. Lalla Ward, of course, played Princess Astra and then came back as Romana the following year. Freema Agyeman, who we just saw, of course, she played a part.
I forgot that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. She played a part and then came back, I think, the very next series again. Karen Gillan came back, appeared first as a soothsayer of Pompeii, and then came back. And even Bradley Walsh appeared in Sarah Jane Adventures in an episode called Day of the Clown, playing multiple parts, and then came back as a companion.
Jackie Hill herself.
Who, sorry, JT?
Jackie Hill herself.
Oh, in reverse, yeah.
But I'm talking about people who played parts first and then came back.
And then came back as a companion, yeah.
You're quite right, Jackie Hill, of course. And talking of Jackie, as I say, William Russell and Jacqueline Hill, I love them as characters. And I love the very final scenes in this particular episode we're talking about, when they leap on the bus and they go back to their old way of life.
It's magical.
It is magical, but there's still this little bit that just nags at the back of my brain that thinks, what are they going to tell the police when the police come knocking and say, do you know the whereabouts of a girl from your school who was last seen going home, and you were seen following her back to the junkyard, and she hasn't been seen since, and you're here, but she's not. What were they going to tell the police? I still wonder what on earth.
I'm with you. I do that. I worry about, how did Tegan go back to her flat when she only had a skirt on? Who was paying their rent when they were off in time and space? How did Sarah get from wherever she was, where we're led to believe that?
Aberdeen.
I know what you mean. I always
I
wondered
worry about
Perry's
these
mother. Once her husband and daughter had completely gone missing, what happened to Perry's mother in Lanzarote?
Yeah, I worry about things like that. It keeps me up at
Who
night.
can say? Who can
We'll
say?
never know. We'll never know.
Anyway, there we go. That's
What
the
else
chase.
have we got, Simon?
My final little interesting thing on the chase. Apparently, this was due to be repeated in November 1986, but they couldn't get permission to repeat it. It was going to be repeated, but they couldn't get clearance.
But that was when the BBC had an anniversary, wasn't it?
That's the one. And it should have been the repeat, but we didn't get it. Anyway, moving on. 2017 we're spinning back to now, when 5 million of us tuned into World Enough and Time, which of course was the penultimate main episode for Peter Capaldi. Of course, he did the Christmas special, Twice Upon a Time Lord, but this was his penultimate regular episode. And we were we were rapidly heading downhill at this point towards the end of number 12 of Peter Capaldi's Doctor. And this, of course, saw the return of the Mondasian Cybermen 51 years after they first appeared in the 10th planet.
That had been on Peter Capaldi's wish list, hadn't it, for the things he wanted to do before he departed.
I love Mondasian Cyberman, yeah.
I think it was great to see these Cybermen back. I think so much fun of was made of them, not just at the time in 1966, but through the years they've been ridiculed. And so I think it was a brave decision, but an excellent decision to bring them back. But the one thing that really still rankles with me is why they gave them flesh-coloured gloves, why they didn't just go with human hands.
Strange.
Sorry, Simon. I think it's because it was Bill, and of course she was a person of colour, so they want it to be a thing where it was going to be obviously Bill. Of course, it was always going to be Bill. But I think that was
there was a real dramatic
punch.
punch.
To keep it a mystery because obviously,
makes sense.
Unfortunately, it is not that there wasn't that much diversity in that sort of thing. So I think that was the reason why.
Maybe.
But what I did hate, if you don't mind me just jumping on your thing there, was that they brought the stomping back. What for?
Oh, I'm agreeing with you, Charles. Why did they do that? Why the Cybermen?
That was a strange choice. No, everybody's allowed to speak and talk and converse during these segments. It's all right.
And we've talked about that before, haven't we? Why that we don't like it, and I'm totally with you on this one, Charles. No, it bugs me. But it's an interesting episode. As I said, I do think it's a brave episode because of this decision to bring back these Mondasian Cybermen who at best have been controversial and divisive. And apart from my feeling with the hands that they don't work, the rest of the costumes are great, and it's just nice to
I can't remember it at all.
Heather Sulu describes them as space zombies. Space zombies are way cooler than Iron Man converts.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this is where, again, we've talked about this in the past, where we just feel that 21st century Cybermen never quite work. And if anything, I do think that the best Cybermen in 21st century who have been these. So you
they were there to sell the toys, weren't they?
Yeah.
The new ones, weren't they? So
yeah. I just hope Russell T Davies learns a lesson from this and realises actually, the Cybermen haven't worked up until now, really, whereas these kind of did work, I think.
This is a popular story in the chat on YouTube as well. Lots of people saying how much they loved it. Fabulous story. A brilliant two-parter.
It's kind of an origin.
Surprised because it really does delve into the horror of what it means to become a Cyberman, and the whole process the whole process that was taken to lead them to this point. It really is a bit of a Genesis story. It shouldn't be, but it is, and it does work really well, and it ties in really nicely to Spare Parts. If you've had that, which
if I remember right, it doesn't count. Almost a version of Spare Parts. This is the Big Finish audio, which is actually very, very good.
Fantastic.
And this is they might even, I'm not sure, it could be that they even based it on it. I can't remember now enough of the background of this story, but it might be that it was based on.
They did, not just this. I think the one in 2006, that two-parter, Rise of the Cybermen, that borrowed elements, and World Enough and Time absolutely borrowed elements as well.
Well, Mark got the credit on the 2006 episode, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, nice guy, Mark. Hi, Mark, if you're watching.
So there we go. 2017. That's what we were watching. Now then, on to finally one birthday for today. Well, lots and lots of birthdays. Very quickly. Mentioned Caitlin Blackwood, who of course played the young Amy Pond. She's 22 today. Hello and happy birthday.
Oh, I love Caitlin.
And David Morris is also 58 this week. But we're going to talk. We're going to go a little bit off piste with this one, and we're going to wish a very happy 65th birthday to the indubitable Lee John. Sorry.
This guy
played probably the campest pirates this side of Jack Sparrow when he played Mansell in Enlightenment. He was the last minute replacement for David Rule, who dropped out. Apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, David Rule allegedly dropped out.
Didn't know this.
Action. I think there was industrial action at the BBC, and that meant that then the dates didn't work for him any longer because they had to push production dates. And so Lee John was very much a last-minute replacement. Good old JNT, heaven only knows what possessed him to cast Lee John, but he is memorable. Lee John is.
He was a name at the time, though, wasn't he? He did get publicity for being in the show.
Absolutely. But he's fabulously camp, as you can say that. I talked at length last week about what makes a good Doctor Who villain as being camp, and here it is on screen. You know, Lee John and Captain Rack. Played by Linda Barron, absolutely, literally out-camp each other to be the campest thing on screen when they are in and it's brilliant. I love Enlightenment, and I think Lee John does a cracking job. Considering he stepped in at the last minute, he does a really good job. For anybody that hasn't got a clue who Lee John actually is. He there we go. He was the lead singer of Imagination, an early 80s band.
They were big as well, weren't they? They were big.
They were huge.
Absolutely huge were Imagination. Their two biggest hits, Body Talk and Just an Illusion. Of course, we're all far too young to remember this. But they were huge in the early 80s. And I've actually seen Lee John in concert. I went to see him on tour. He now does a lot of jazz musician. So yeah, to put it in context for people that don't know who Lee John is, he was a pop star, a massive pop star in 81 and 82, and then appeared in Doctor Who in 83. He was born in Hackney. Of St. Lucian descent. He was educated in New York City and then later at Anna Scher's stage school. And for those, and I know this will be keeping you awake at night if I don't tell you this. You're going to be wondering why. You're going to be wondering where that extra E came from. Is that really his name? Why is he Lee John?
Yeah, I had wondered about that.
Well, it's very simple. He added the extra E when he signed on with the EMI as a musician, as the leader and singer of Imagination, because he thought it would make it a little bit more different and a bit more interesting. So he gave himself an extra E. But he was born plain old Lee.
A man who dressed like that thought he needed to look more interesting in. What do you reckon?
I reckon he had a couple of E's. He added one E, and he probably had a couple of E's during that day as well.
Couple. Yeah, you could be right. You could be right.
Yeah.
Just to answer Crippling Doubloon there in the chat. Yes, he was. He was on the 80s decade bus. Yes, he was. Well spotted.
Yeah.
The 80s decade bus. I never saw that.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah,
he was there. He absolutely was there. Yeah, he was there on the 80s bus, and he is still something of a legend. As I say, I have seen him live, and he gives quite.
He's great fun.
All I will say is he gives a memorable show. You won't forget an evening out with Lee John. And so,
fabulous.
Happy 65th birthday, sir. Happy 65th.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrific. Yeah, he's a real British eccentric. I know we use that phrase a lot on this show. But he is, and yeah, as you say, still traveling the country. I think he does a lot of holiday camps as well.
Yeah, that's where
I've seen him.
I saw him at an 80s spectacular, obviously, at Butlins Minehead, obviously.
Yeah. Just an illusion.
Yeah.
Was your body talking though, Simon?
Well done.
Actually, anybody really who we're talking about? Go onto YouTube, just look up a performance by Imagination of Body Talk or Just an Illusion. Yeah. Your eyes will fall out of your head when you see what they're up to. You wonder how they got away with it.
Heather Sulu says, I should remember when Type 40 is on. I feel so energized whenever it's on. Seeing more Geeks and Nerds warms me up inside. Absolutely, you should, Heather. You should definitely like this video. You should absolutely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And you should definitely share us along to your friends, the other Whovians in your life. And if they're not already Whovians, I'm sure that all of this will convert them like those Mondasian Cybermen that have been in the diary tonight. Thanks, as always, Simon, for putting all of that together. So many deep dives and lots of geekiness to warm the cockles of not just Heather, but everybody else. So, yes, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what's going on next, where, and when. Cheers again, Simon.